Welcome this evening to Globespan 24x7 as we bring you our regular Monday night program. Tonight we are having some technical issue to getting one of our guests on, but as usual, we will get him on and he will join us later on in the program. Today we are very glad to have you back with us, to our audience, to Nohar Singh for making this platform available, and of course to Devin Bisu, our technical specialist. To our audience here in North America and in Guyana and around the world, we want to welcome you to our program tonight. As we promise you, it will be a very interesting program as we discuss the situation with our education system and the representative or teachers, the Guyana Teachers Union. Tonight with us, we are very honored to have with us the General Secretary and Member of Parliament for APNU AFC, Ms. Coretta McDonald. Ms. McDonald, welcome to the program tonight.
Good evening to you, and thank you for having me here.
Thank you. We're expecting Mr. Mark Lyte, who is the president of the union, but we're having some technical difficulties getting onto him. As soon as those are rectified, we will have him on the program. And of course, with me tonight is my co-host, Dr. Rose. Dr. Rose, welcome back.
Thank you, Charles, and welcome to all our listeners across the globe.
Okay.
And to you, Ms. McDonald, a very welcome to you, a special welcome to you as well.
Thank you.
Ms. McDonald, I had this question for Mr. Lyte, but he's not here, so I'll have to pose it to you first. And my question is, what is the state of the Guyana Teachers Union as we speak?
What is the state of the Guyana Teachers Union as we speak? I'm not sure that there is a state that I can say. What I know is that the Guyana Teachers Union is up and about, functioning as per normal. Our members are right there with us. Of course, they are disappointed with what is happening within the education system. As a matter of fact, they're disappointed with the state of the relationship with the Ministry of Education. But the Guyana Teachers Union, like we say, with our members, our thousands of members, we are up and we are functioning as normal.
Thank you. And that's a good answer, actually. I'm glad it's functioning well. So, Madam Secretary, when was the Guyana Teachers Union recognized as the bargaining agent for our teachers? In what year was that union recognized? Do you remember?
The GTU is 189 years old.
What?
Since it was established then, they have been recognized back then as the British Guyana Teachers Union. And then we changed after independence to the Guyana Teachers Union. So all those years, the GTU would have been recognized as the sole bargaining unit for teachers across the country.
So it's not a recent union. It has been there for almost near 200 years old, almost.
Exactly so.
Okay. And is your union the bargaining agent for all of our teachers, including the head teachers?
All teachers except those in the private schools.
So in the public school, the head teacher will also be part of your bargaining unit?
Principals, Government Technical Institute, Third Quarter College of Education, you have the Queen's College, Bishop High, all of those principals. In the secondary schools, post-secondary, primary, and the nursery.
Okay, that's interesting. And now that the private schools is blossoming all over Guyana, is your union considering approaching those teachers to get them into the bargaining unit of the union?
As a matter of fact, about 2 years ago, we would have approached 2 of the private schools because the teachers have asked us to become members of the unions. But the administrators of those schools, they are not too keen on having their members unionized. And so we started having our engagement, and those fell through after a while. But it's one of the things that we have to pursue, and we'll continue to pursue that because our students and the pupils within the private schools, they participate at our national championships, when we have the national championships, when we have the inter schools and the zones and so on, they participate at that level, as well as the teachers in those schools, they participate. How they do that? Because they belong to different branches. They're either in the North Georgetown, East Georgetown, South Georgetown branch, or maybe from Region 3 or 5 or 6, wherever these private schools are located. And the teachers, what they would do is to pay over the counter. They would pay for membership for 3 months over the counter, and that allows them to be part of the championship in November of every year, except for last year, and this year we're not going to have any because of COVID.
Can the administration of a school, a private school, prevent the teachers from expressing their interests of being part of the union? Is not against the law if they try to block it?
They shouldn't, but it's a whole, there's a lot of politics involved, let me say that. We don't only have politics within the trade unions or within the political parties, the national political parties, but we have all these kinds of politics playing out. And so if the administrators are not willing to come on board readily, then you have that kind of delay, because they have to be ready to sit with us so that we can talk about what are the benefits of the teachers, what part they're going to play, because they would have to be there to ensure that what we're laying out there in terms of benefits for workers and the role that they have to play, because don't forget, 2 hands clapping. And so if they are not readily a part of what is happening, then it delays the entire process. They shouldn't do this, but it happens because of the delay.
But in your experience, does the private schools, do they have a better package for the teachers than the government schools in terms of remuneration and the benefits and so on? I'm not sure, but is that something that the private schools have that is better than the government schools?
I wouldn't want to say that they have a package that is really better than the public schools. So yes, the salary is just a little over what the public schools are receiving. In addition to that, the classes are small. You don't have a number of pupils and students to deal with, and because of that, you have even more resource that is being spread across the board. So every child would be able to have the kind of access to his or her teacher, which would enable him to be able to, just using this widely, to be able to read better, to be able to speak, properly, to be able to work problems on the chalkboard, to have that kind of one-on-one interaction with your teacher while the others are working because of the size of their classroom. So those are some of the plus that we have in the private schools as against what we have in the public schools.
Ms. McDonald, how many teachers do we have in Guyana incorporate GTI, and every area you represent, how many teachers do we have, including the principal of the school?
We have over 11,000 plus teachers in Guyana. But all of those teachers are not members of the Guyana Teachers Union.
I was coming to that. Of the number of 11,000 or so, what percentage of that are members of the union?
We have, I can say 75 or just over 75% of those teachers are members of the Guyana Teachers Union.
I know when I was working in the public service in the 80s, if you're not a member of the union, you're still required to pay the union due. I think they call it agency fee at that time. Is that happening now, or that is not happening?
No, we no longer have that happening. What we have happening now is the teacher expressing a desire to become a member of the Guyana Teachers Union. And so that teacher would fill up the membership form. You have the part where you fill up with all of your personal information, and then you have the authorization for the deductions, which is taken to the accounting department of whichever department of education within that region, and there's where the deductions would take place. But the teacher has got to indicate that he or she wants to become a member of the Guyana Teachers Union.
I know Dr. Rose and I, we both lecture here in New York, but I know from historical experience, our female personnel seems to be better at teaching our students. What percent of our teachers are male and female in Guyana? Do you have that percentage?
Well, let me say to you that we have about 85% of our teachers who are females. Other is those are males. Recently, we have found that a few more males interested and they are joining the profession, but the profession is made up primarily of females.
We have females dominating the teachers profession and also the nursing profession. So you guys have and the public service too? Okay. I see Mr. Mark Lyte is here. Mr. Mark Lyte, President of the Guyana Teachers Union. Mr. Lyte, welcome to the program tonight.
Thank you, Sugrim. Good evening to everyone viewing the broadcast. Good evening, Dr. Rose and Madam General Secretary and all persons viewing this broadcast across the diaspora.
Well, thank you, and we want to welcome you to. Mr. President, I asked the General Secretary, and she was very direct to the point. I was asking her, what is the state of the Guyana Teachers Union as we speak today? Would you want to elaborate on what, I'm not sure you heard what she said, but she said something nice. Well, would you want to elaborate on what she said?
What is the state of the Guyana Teachers Union?
Yeah. Like the state of the country, the state of the union now. How is this? Is the union doing what it is doing? Is it getting objections? Are there bottlenecks? Are there challenges? What is going on within the union?
The Guyana Teachers Union is a strong union that stands very firmly on the objectives and our constitutional position. There is no issues within the Guyana Teachers Union as it relates to any things that are not focused on what we are set out to do. The Guyana Teachers Union is firmly focused on representing our constituents, and we are committed to ensure that our members are given what is due to them, and we have made representation irrespective of which government sits in power. Our responsibility is to ensure that the teachers are duly represented. So as it is presently, we are a very strong executive body, and we have our branches spread across that are functioning as they should.
Thank you. I was asking General Secretary, but I want to ask you this. I know the teachers union is it what it says, teachers union. Is there any consideration with your union to look at other sector of the economy except teachers to represent them?
Well, presently we represent teachers because, as you mentioned, our class is restricted teachers. We have had situations where we had to represent other school staff, and like the cleaners, we had to make representations for them, even though they're not quite members. Janitors, sweeper cleaners, and we do have many of our education officers who have moved over from the teaching service to the public service, who maintain their membership as union members. So from time to time, we will represent outside of the teachers within the fraternity. Even though they are not members, we will speak on their behalf on several occasions. So it is something that we have to consider, because I believe when you're talking about teacher staff or staff of a school, it includes part of the ancillary groupings. And I believe the education management level, there are persons who still have an interest in being represented by the teachers union. So it is something that we would have to look at, and we are open to discussions along those lines.
So who represents the auxiliary staff, like the cleaners or the other personnel who work within the school system at the schools?
They should, once they're permanent staff, we find that a lot of the ancillary staff are contract workers, so they are not represented. Once you're a contract worker, then you are not up for representation, either by the public service union. But once you have permanent staff, they are under the public service union. So they should be represented by that body.
Okay, and before Dr. Rose come on, one more question. Your General Secretary said that about 75% of the 11,000 plus teachers are part of the union. Are you reaching out to the other 25% for them to be a part of the union? Because, you know, a united front is better than a splintered, group. So what efforts is made by your union to bring in all those teachers who are not part of the union?
Thank you for that question. We have a very aggressive recruitment for membership. And what we find is that many persons would have applied to become members of the union, but their dues are not deducted at the level of the Regional Democratic Council. And so persons have gotten frustrated having to apply and apply and apply. So that has been a bottleneck. But I know for sure once those applications process, I have about 90% on board. But we do have an aggressive membership drive, and the persons complete the application form, and then it goes to the Regional Democratic Council, the accounting section. On many occasions, the deductions are not made, and that may be one of the reasons why our number is only reflecting about 75%.
Thank you. Dr. Rose?
Yes, Mr. Mark Lyte, welcome to the program. But I think you're dark. You maybe need some light in the background.
I have a lot of light here.
Okay.
I'm not sure why it's showing dark there.
Okay. Now, this question is for both of you. I think quite a few people know you by name and the president of the Teachers Union, and so you, Ms. McDonald, as the General Secretary. But could you give us a background of yourself? Starting with you, Ms. McDonald, a brief background of yourself.
A brief background of Coretta McDonald. Coretta McDonald is a teacher by profession. I've been in the teaching profession for almost 31 years, and don't try to guess my age because you're not going to get it right. I've worked my way up from that of a junior teacher to that of a head teacher. And basically that is Coretta McDonald. Having been being a teacher in the classroom, I got involved in union business and the whole business of the union in 2000. And that's when I became an assistant secretary to the general secretary, then Mistress Avril Crawford. And from there, I have moved. As a matter of fact, I should say to you, I've always been a teacher in the South Georgetown branch. And moving from there in and around what is happening at the union, being the branch secretary, the sports secretary, and so on. And then I moved my way from there to being assistant secretary, and now to who I am presently, the general secretary of the Guyana Teachers Union. So basically, that's Coretta McDonald.
You, Mr. Lyte.
Thank you for that question. As you said, my name is Mark Lyte, and I reside on the quarantine coast. I can pride myself as being a Demerarian too, because I was born in the county of Demerara and lived several years there in my youthful days. I am also a minister of the gospel. I have been involved in sports, predominantly cricket and athletics as a young man. And having joined the teaching profession in 1991, I've always been a voice for teachers in the staff room. There are some teachers in the staff room who would never want to raise their voice on issues. And I've always been a voice for teachers in the staff room per se. And that kind of moved me to the point where I wanted wanted to be able to represent teachers on a wider scale. And so, having been in the profession, the Guyana Teachers Union in 1995, I became a member of the Teachers Union, and thereafter started to represent within my branch as a branch general counsel rep. In 2014, I was elected president of the Guyana Teachers Union, and ever since I've been serving diligently, representing teachers across the length and breadth of Guyana. And so I would consider myself to be a representative of the people, first of all, to speak where they cannot speak, to use my voice. I'm also ardently involved in my community, serving my community in a religious way. I am a head teacher of a secondary school, being appointed in 2014 as a head teacher, and I'm happily married and have two grown sons in their early 20s. So it is a household name in Guyana, being a voice for teachers. And you know, there are times when you are labeled for different things, but at the end of the day, you represent people and you represent their interests. So that's, in a nutshell, who I am. I presently reside in the county of Berbice.
Thank you. Ms. McDonald, the GTU, the Guyana Teachers Union, is considered a very prestigious union in Guyana, affiliated with the Guyana Labor Union. What is the structure of the union? You have the president, the general secretary. What else exists as a structure? And do you have an head office?
Well, let me say to you, the Guyana Teachers Union, we have a constitution, and within that constitution, you have a structure. The structure says, or it reads, president, first vice president, second vice president, general secretary, deputy general secretary, treasurer, regional vice presidents, Essequibo, Demerara, and Berbice. Within that, we have sections. We have a sports section, we have a health and wellness section, and we also have a women's advisory committee. And so those are section heads, and we have section heads and secretaries who govern those sections. And the Guyana Teachers Union's headquarters is located in Wolford Avenue, and that's the main building. But we also have a second building in Berbice, in New Amsterdam, where there's another union hall there. At that building in Berbice, we have the regional vice president Berbice, whose office is located there. So the teachers from the county of Berbice, if they have any issues, then they can go there on particular days to meet with the regional vice president Berbice. In Georgetown, and like everything else, we have cleaners, we have a caretaker, and the full works in Berbice, just the same way we have in Georgetown. In Georgetown, we have them on a larger scale.
I sense a little bias there. You said you have a women's advisory group. Why not a male?
Well, you know what? That very group, we would have incorporated the males in that very group. As a matter of fact, I think it was 2 conferences ago, our male teachers were deliberating on this very issue. Why we have the WAC and we don't have an MAC. And so we have started formalizing that aspect of it because we recognize that our male teachers are quite challenged in this profession. And as such, we need to have a section that would deal with some of the challenges that our male teachers have to face every day when they are at their places of work. And so while we have the WAC shouldering some of what is supposed to be happening in the MAC, very, very soon, I think at our next conference, we might very well have a constitution there being adopted by the conference, and we have the male, the MAC, as a matter of fact, officially being recognized as a section within the GTU.
Okay. Mr. Lyte, teachers, at least people in Guyana, a lot of people don't know this, but teachers cannot be employed unless there's a teachers commission appointed by the president. One has not been appointed as yet. So this means that primary school teachers cannot be appointed. Will you urge the president to reestablish the Teachers Commission?
Thank you.
Mr. Lyte?
Again, this is a matter that of concern.
I think he's off. Ms.
Guyana
McDonald, do you
Teachers
want to take
Union.
that question?
He's on, you know.
I'm on.
Both of you are off?
I'm on. Are you hearing me?
I'm hearing you now, yes.
All right. So what we have is a situation where there is no Teaching Service Commission as of February 2021. The Guyana Teachers Union wrote the President Ali, in July, asking for the Teaching Service Commission to be appointed. We are still awaiting a response or an acknowledgement of our letter from the President, but we are concerned because this affects junior appointment. Right now, schools are understaffed and they cannot have new persons employed because there is no Teaching Service Commission. It also have an impact on the senior appointments. As you know, every year, senior vacancies are published and teachers apply for those vacancies. It means that in 2021, no senior vacancy will be filled because there is no Teaching Service Commission. And that has a direct impact on teachers' gratuity, though some teachers make off, retire at the present status they're at without being given the opportunity to be promoted. We have some teachers are going to migrate and they're going to lose the opportunity to move to another level. And so it has an impact on junior appointment as well as senior appointment. And we hope that the President will pick up our letter that was sent to him in July 2021 and act on it speedily, because it has a significant impact not only on the gratuity but also on new appointees. And teachers in the system would also have to carry those
Ms.
classes.
McDonald, you hearing me?
Where persons may have to carry those classes, where larger classes they may have to carry as a result of being understaffed. So it's a grave concern, and we would like to see it being addressed.
Audience, both of our guests are off.
No, Doc, I think Doc is having a problem with the system. So that's okay, I will continue the discussion. I did mention that he will have problems with his internet where he is. So, Mr. Lyte, I know the hot topic now is the idea that they're okay. Go on, Doc. You're back on.
Yes, Mr. Lyte, are you back on?
Yeah,
I have been on all along.
Go on, Doc.
No,
That's the question.
you went off. Go ahead. Finish your answer.
So I was saying, apart you were not hearing, but the rest of the panel, they were hearing what I said, that the Teaching Service Commission not being in place would have a direct impact on junior appointments as well as senior promotion. And I was saying, with senior promotion, it would affect the teachers' gratuity, persons who do not get their promotion and would retire, their gratuity and pension. Also, it would affect teachers in the system having to work with larger classes since they cannot have new teachers being employed. So it has a ripple effect. And as I said, we wrote the President asking him to address this concern since July, and we are yet to receive an acknowledgement of that letter. Okay. We have not heard from the President as to whether it's being addressed or not, and we hope that it can be addressed in this earliest possible time.
Of late, you seem to be clashing with the government, or vice versa, the government clashing with you, over three main issues. One, vaccinations. Teachers who are not vaccinated are not allowed in the classroom. Ms. McDonald, can you address that issue?
Well, we seem to be, well, not we seem, there is a problem right there. We saw the new regulations that came out from the COVID guidelines, which states that all employees must be vaccinated before they can enter their place of work, or they must produce a PCR test. What we have a difficulty with is the fact that, as a matter of fact, let me say clear, the GTU is not against vaccination. We have been encouraging our members all along to get vaccinated. But like everything else, there are going to be persons in any sector, in any organization, who would still be hesitant with regards to having whatever is being required of them. And so in the teaching profession, it's no different. We have teachers who are hesitant for whatever reasons. We have been saying to this administration, where teachers are willing to work, all we're asking you to do for us is to pay for the testing. Because we have recognized that when you look at the teacher's salary, if a teacher were to have that PCR test being conducted every 7 days, which means that it's going to be 4 times per week, at $25,000, that teacher would not be able to eat for the rest of the month, or that teacher would not be able to attend work, or that teacher might very well have to sit right at home. We have recognized these issues. And so we have been urging the administration to either release that restriction or you pay for the testing. Neither have been adhered to or they have been put in place. And so our teachers are locked out from schools. We're upset that these very teachers who are being locked out from school now were the very teachers who worked with our students, preparing them for CSEC and CAPE. These very teachers worked with our pupils, preparing them for the National Grade 6 exams. These very teachers, unvaccinated, these very teachers were the teachers who were used to aid in the process of the $19,000 cash grant. These were the very teachers who were used to attend workshops, unvaccinated, to attend workshops, to go into school on the week before school reopened, to prepare their classrooms, to put up teaching aids, to do all of these things. But on Monday morning, when they were ready to teach their classes, to engage their pupils and their students after having been out of the classroom for almost 18 months, you are saying to them now that they cannot go into those classrooms because they're unvaccinated and because they don't have a PCR test results. We find that as being very, very unacceptable. And rather than having an engagement with the teachers' union, there was just a blank. And so the teachers' union took offense to that. And like any other union, we have a mandate to represent our members. And that is what we have been doing, and we will continue to do that.
Mr. Scott, on the same topic.
Dr. Rose, Doc, can we just take a short commercial break? And when we come back, you will continue the question to Mr. Lyte. So we back very Stay right.
Thank you to all of our Travelspan and Amros Travels customers and staff. We are still operating after COVID shutdown thanks to all of your support. Our staff has made the best efforts during COVID to speak with the airlines on your behalf. They stayed on hold for hours sometimes with the airlines to rebook your reservations. We are happy to serve. Our offices are operating at 10809 Liberty Avenue, Richmond Hill, New York, and our Val Park office and GT offices are open as well. Travelspan survived these 27 years with our customers, staff support, and God. In our 27 years, we are grateful to be here with you in the community. So call us today in New York at 718-845-0437. In Trinidad, call 645-1604. And in Georgetown, call 227-1701. And Rose Hall, call 337-4287. Get your meals delivered directly to your home. Order your curry, duck curry, goat, or chicken, plus your Dalbury roti and bus-up-shut from allfromonesupplier.com. We ship your meals directly to your home, so you can enjoy it upon arrival or refrigerate it and take it out when you're ready to eat. No more waiting in lines and no more losing time. Now you can treat yourself with a tasty curry and roti. You could also order solos, ices, pear jacks, coconut water, and much more from allforonesupplier.com. It is free shipping to all U.S. states on all your curry, duck curry, goat, and chicken, plus sodas and all West Indian items. So treat yourself or send a gift box of your favorite food, tasty pastries, sweets, and coconut water, or any West Indian item, products such as fish, meat, curry powders, pepper sauces, and much more from allforonesupplier.com. Call today at 718-551-3292 or visit allfromonesupplier.com. Remember, it's free shipping throughout the U.S. Folks, the Nest Restaurant is the place to dine for Guyanese and Caribbean dishes. It is the best restaurant in Queens. The staff is courteous, and Dave, the owner, is always there to welcome you. So for a memorable dining experience, visit the Nest Restaurant located at 12717 101 Avenue, South Richmond Hill. Go and make a reservation today or takeout. Call 718-847-4035.
Of viewers all across North America, the Caribbean, Guyana, and elsewhere. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Lyte, I want to touch back on this same issue. Why can't the union pay for the PCR test? Because tell me, why should I allow a teacher to teach my child in school if the teacher is not vaccinated?
Well, the response to that is very simple. The employer has that responsibility based on our constitution. And that is the mandate of any union to pay for any PC. That is the mandate of the employer who wants the employee tested. And we have raised that matter with the ministry. I believe the Ministry of Labor also said, the last time I heard the Minister of Labor speaking, he said they have to consult their lawyer because that was a debatable matter. That went under the carpet because it is recognized in many quarters that if you're going to mandate persons to take a test on the job, then it means that the employer has that responsibility. And that is enshrined in our constitution. Unfortunately, it's being shifted. And we want to say that, I want to add to what Ms. McDonald was saying, our General Secretary, that our teachers are not, in general, I should say, the Guyana Teachers Union is not opposed to vaccination. We have had on our GTU and U program, we have had doctors on call answering questions from teachers. But you know, in every society, and Guyana is no different, whenever you make things mandatory, people are going to push back. And I believe there are better ways in which persons can be coerced into or coaxed into doing this. Persons can be given the opportunity to ask their questions. And we should have the professionals and not politicians answering questions on calls because, you know, there's a level of mistrust on all sides. But if you have the professionals come on a call or have an education program where you can answer people's questions. Additionally, we have some persons in the profession who have underlying conditions, and for no reason would they be given, would they be willing to take that test. So I believe the onus is on the employer to ensure that the PCR tests are being given to those persons free of cost, and not the Guyana Teachers Union. And I don't see it happening anywhere in the world. So that's my response to that question, Dr. Rose.
I think Dr. Rose might have had a problem with his internet again. But Mr. Lyte, Dr. Rose, you're back on?
Yeah, I'm always back on. The one going off. A quick question for both of you. Tell me, the government is saying that the actions of the teachers union are inhibiting students' education. You're saying the government is doing the same thing. Who is doing what? What have you to say? Quickly.
We believe that dialogue is critical. in any organization, if we want to have respectfully submit our views, we should have dialogue. There's an absence of meaningful dialogue between the two parties. And so while the government that teachers are denying children an education by not taking the vaccine, we can also say the same, because we have videos and pictures to show teachers showing up their day to work and a security guard breaching the school protocol, locking out head teachers, and the protocol says the head teacher is the manager of the plant. So we have now put in the hands of security guards the mandate to manage a plant. And we are saying if we can have meaningful dialogue, both sides can find an amicable way of treating with this problem. The Guyana Teachers Union have always advised our members, go to work. Even when they tell us they're being locked out, we say to them, go to work, because they're eager to be there to engage our learners, but only to show up there and find that they're being locked out. And I believe that is what is causing some of the problems. So on both sides, I believe the government has a hand in it, the Ministry of Education, and I also believe teachers on their part, they are hesitant to take the vaccine for different reasons. And if we sit at a table, we will find an amicable solution to this problem. And that is what we've been saying all along.
Charles, over to you.
Okay, Madam General Secretary, we'll just listen to you and the President. But isn't teachers who mold a nation, they should have a higher responsibility to ensure that they protect our children and those around them in the classroom. Because, I mean, the fact is, if someone is not vaccinated and they get the virus, and of course it also goes to if someone is vaccinated and get the virus, they can spread it. So, doesn't this teachers have a greater responsibility to ensure that as far as it's practicable, that they secure themselves, that they're not likely to get the virus and spread it to those around them. And the vaccine might be a way to prevent that from happening.
You know, while all of this might be true, let me say this. We all have a responsibility. I can't do what a nurse can do. I cannot do what a policeman would do. I can't do what the doctors would do. I wouldn't even attempt to do what you are doing. And so the responsibility is that of all of us. And teachers don't operate in isolation, you know. Teachers operate within the school, the home, and the community. And so the responsibility is that of all of us. So while it is important, as you were saying, for teachers to be vaccinated, teachers are human beings just like any other. And so we still have to listen to teachers and their concerns. Some teachers, maybe for religious purposes, they are hesitant. Some teachers, because they are suffering from other ailments, they are somewhat hesitant because they are not being given the kinds of information that they need. And so you cannot go you cannot go and force yourself, let me use those words, on teachers to tell them, you have to be vaccinated. You have to be vaccinated. You got to be vaccinated. We have to, like the president said, we have to sit at the table, look at all the options that we're having, and let's work our way around those and do the educational and awareness programs. And by doing that, we might very well be able to get the very teacher who might have been saying, look, because of my religion, I can't do this, I can't do that, I shouldn't do this. That very teacher you might have, you might be able to convince to take the vaccine. Apart from that, we have seen many of the persons who would have taken both shots. And the scientists would have said this to us, that these are the persons who spread the virus because you are you're vaccinated. The virus doesn't attack you that deadly. as against someone who is unvaccinated. And you hear people talk about all of these things. I'm drinking my bush. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm doing the other. Mind you, I'm not saying that our teachers should not be vaccinated. The thing is, we should be sitting at the table. We should be talking. We should be educating and encouraging. And while we're doing all of that, it would work out. We are going to see the results. And I again, let me say to you, teachers are human beings, just like every other human being, just like every other Guyanese who work within the different sectors. And so teachers have feelings, and we are not here to dictate and to direct and to instruct, but we are here to edify and to encourage. And in doing that, we are going to be able to convince many of our teachers to get vaccinated. While we are encouraging them to get vaccinated, it's all a work in process, in progress, where we are going to have the home, the parents, so that while teachers are vaccinated, you can have children coming into your classroom with the virus. What happens then? And so we have to work within the circle, the home, the school, and the community. We all work together so that we can ensure that what we want to see happen, we'll be able to achieve that goal.
I know, Ms. Madam.
I would just like to add,
Go on.
I'd just like to add.
Yeah, go on.
Add a bit to what Madam General Secretary mentioned. I believe that our teachers here in Guyana have been extremely responsible with their actions. From March 2020 up until September the 5th, 2021, our teachers have been risking their lives and have been taking the necessary steps to ensure that our children are educated, whether virtually or face-to-face. And that has been happening all along. However, what we find very strange is the fact that there is a notion to say that if you are vaccinated, you can't be infected or transmit the virus. And that is not true. The literature that I have read, and I've read widely on this, I've listened to a lot of professionals, and it clearly says the only thing the vaccine does is it prevents you from becoming seriously ill to the point that you end up in an ICU. But it does not stop someone from contracting the virus nor transmitting the virus.
Yeah, Mr. Lyte, I think
that must be put into context. And like the General Secretary said, the union is not opposed to vaccines, but we are opposed to making it mandatory.
Yeah, and I think what you said there is also, everyone says that all the scientists and whoever speak on behalf of the vaccine or the virus is that, yes, you can have the vaccine and still still get the virus and spread it. So that's known. But Ms. General Secretary, Madam General Secretary, what percent of our teachers are vaccinated as we speak today?
Well, I said earlier, maybe about 45% of our teachers are vaccinated.
About 45%. So for the last year, since the vaccine has started, how many of our teachers contracted the virus and how many teachers died from the virus? Do you know that number?
So far, we've gotten, and this was long before we had the vaccine, we lost 4 teachers.
Of the 11 plus 1,000, 4 teachers.
4 teachers who, 4, Mr. Lyte, 4 or was it 5? I think they did.
We know of 4 teachers who died as a result of the virus, contracting the virus, but there are hundreds of teachers who might have contracted the virus, but the deaths are pretty minimal, right? Persons contract the virus. Even now as school is open, teachers are infected, and both the vaccinated and the unvaccinated are infected. The children and schools are closed and open. So that has been going on. But in terms of death, we know about four.
So again, of the 11,000 or so teachers in our system, about 4 died from the virus.
Yes.
And they die from the virus or they die with the virus? I know there's a difference there.
We were told that these teachers contracted the virus.
And they died from the virus.
These teachers died. Some of them you heard, at least 2. I think that 4 might be a little more, but 4 that were prominent, they made the news. Okay. I think we had 2 others in the hinterland who did not make it big, but these 4 they made it big. You heard that they had other complications. But the thing is, while those teachers died when the vaccine was not available, and so the teachers now who have contracted the virus, as a matter of fact, let me say to you, since schools would have been reopened, the doors of schools have been reopened. We have at least 27 schools where teachers have contracted the virus, and those schools have had to close their doors, whether it was for 1 day or 2 days or 14 days or 7 days. 27 schools have been closed so far, and some of them have been reopened. And as we speak, just today we got information that teachers at other schools have tested positive for COVID. And so when we look at what is at that, these are all matters of grave concern, which should seek seek the attention or grapple. Let me see. These are matters that grave concern, and they should be engaging not only the GTU, but the Ministry of Education, where you have the ministry and the GTU as a major stakeholder in education, sitting down to work out how do we resolve these issues? How do we prevent not only teachers, but our students and our pupils in our schools are contracting the virus. Our cleaners in our schools are contracting the virus. And so we have a whole circle in another circle, and all we can do about this is we sanitize the school. Even if it's the teachers you're asking to spray something and just wipe down and let the children return to school. These are issues that should be seriously looked at with the 2 partners.
And Charles, just before coming, I want to say this. Internet interruptions in Guyana is common from coast to coast. The government knows this. The government seems incapable of getting those who are supposed to provide internet services to get this thing off the ground and running properly. And I will tell the government tonight, if you cannot get proper internet in your country, don't talk about development. Please, you're fooling yourself. Okay. Everybody knows about internet disruptions. It's embarrassing. And if you cannot get a proper internet system in a proper communication in your country, do not talk about development, because nobody can come here to develop anything unless you get a proper communication network. So if the government cannot take action to get this done, then I'm telling them they're wasting their time talking about development.
Dr. Rose, here in the United States, the private sector controls the telecommunication and the internet. In Guyana, the same thing applies. So yeah, the government have a responsibility, but of course the private sector need to step up their game to ensure that they provide a service to the people. But
time and time again in the States, if there's any major communication breakdown on any internet service, you see the government steps in. And those private sector who collect internet have to compensate the people for the loss of time. You know that.
That I agree with. Okay, let's get back to the, Ms. McDonald, you want to say something?
Unlike what happens in Guyana, I pay for 1 month data, and if there's a breakdown in the service for 3 or 4 days, I don't get that back. And
that's where competition, Ms. General Secretary, that's where competition comes in. So if someone can provide a good quality service, but the thing is, Guyanese are paying a hell of a lot for internet. I understand that too, and the quality is really poor. So maybe they need some more service providers, and that might, help us to get better quality service.
We have about 10 service providers in the country, and
So
none don't get to act properly, and the government is not doing anything about it.
So
If
Dr.
they're
Rose,
doing anything, then nothing is happening.
okay, Dr. Rose, you can go into that investment. Maybe the teachers' union maybe can get into that investment. So that's a good thing maybe to get into.
The thing is, in Guyana, our population is just about 750,000, or as it is now, we are way below that. We don't have internet services in every community across this country. And yet, what we're having is still not of the very best, But the thing is, I think, like Dr. Rose is saying, the government is a major shareholder in this business. And so if you're a major stakeholder in this business, whether you own 25% or 30% or whatever the percentage is, you have to make representation for your people.
Well, Ms. McDonald, and again, we are straying from the matter, no, Dr. Rose brought it up, but just to say this in closing this, is that Guyana with 750,000 people, we are spread across 83,000 square miles. So it's difficult for any sector, whether in the government sector, the private sector, to provide that service when we are so spread out in Trinidad or Barbados or St. Lucia or Grenada. There's concentration of people within a small community, so you can provide that service much more effective and efficiently than we can. Think of it this way: we are living from Crabwood Creek all the way to Charity. Then we live, in Mandia, and we live in different areas. Is it impossible? Really? I mean, I hear the point you guys are saying, but it's almost impossible for any government, any private sector to satisfy the needs of everyone based on how spread out we are in Guyana. But having said that, and I know we can discuss that more, but let's continue with the discussion. Madam General Secretary, if 40 to 45% of our teachers are vaccinated, and if the government decided that, if you're not vaccinated, you don't have the PCR test, I'm sorry, you cannot come into the classroom, then what happened to our education system?
Well, it goes down the drain, and that's why I'm saying engagement is what is necessary. Engagement is what is necessary, because while we're saying that we want to have our teachers return to the classroom, we want to have our pupils and our students return to the classroom. If we don't have the systems in place, then we're wasting time, because we're going to have in our school system, in some schools, we have 3 teachers and all 3 of them might be are vaccinated. Let me say that all 3 of them are vaccinated. So in that nursery school, you have 100%. But then you have a nursery school further down the road where you have 10 teachers, 10 classes, but you have only 3 of your teachers vaccinated. What happens there to the rest of the classes, the rest of the nursery school pupils? They can't have the kind of equal access to education like the other 3 classes are going to be having. So what do we do then? Do we continue to lock our teachers out? Do we continue to refuse to pay for the PCR test? Do we continue to say mandatory, you must have the vaccine? What do we do? Here is where mature and responsible discussion come in, and we work our way around that.
And I know we have much more to discuss, but Mr. Lyte, before we leave this topic, what is the protocol like in Trinidad or Barbados or Jamaica in terms of the teachers going back to schools? I know here in the US, it's now mandatory also, like here, teachers, the students as well today in the CUNY colleges in New York City, all students must be vaccinated by today and give their certificate. If not, they be dropped from the class. Teachers, professors are still allowed to continue to lecture because most of the lectures are done online. What is the protocol in the Caribbean islands vis-a-vis Guyana at this point in time, with teachers having the vaccine before they go back to the classroom?
Well, thank you. I must tell you that the other islands, schools have been closed and they're only engaging the learners virtually. Unlike Guyana, with few COVID cases, they have decided to abort the face-to-face. I know they have the vaccination drive going on, but I am not aware that it has been made mandatory within the school sector in the other Caribbean countries. I know there were some constitutional reforms or some bills being passed, at least in St. Vincent, and there were some pushback from the residents and citizens there, but no other Caribbean country is mandating that their teaching staff take a vaccine. They are all working online with the exception of Guyana.
And that's it, and that's a good point, because you see, again, Guyana, we just talk about the internet service. Guyana is such in a really bad state in that if we go online to teach our students, one, all the students don't have a computer. Secondly, as you said, the internet service is not provided to all our students. The teachers themselves might not even have the internet in their homes, so they might have to go somewhere else or even a computer. So we are really in a worse state than any other Caribbean islands in terms of the technology process. We are not prepared for this, but I mean that's why a lot of students did so bad in the last year or so because of the problem with teaching online. What is the solution?
But let me say to you, while we did not have the vaccines for over a year, our teachers were performing. Look at our performance that we had at CSEC. Our teachers have been performing. Our teachers have been working many schools within Guyana. The teachers have been asked to go into school. So you are in school and you're using the internet facility at school, and you're doing your online classes there. Teachers have been going out into the communities, distributing workbooks. Parents, especially in those far-reaching areas where the internet facility is not reachable, teachers have been distributing workbooks. Teachers have been collecting those workbooks. They've been meeting with their parents, collecting those worksheets, marking them, having discussions on Fridays. That was a day that was set aside to have your one-on-one discussion with the parent and the child. And that was working quite fine. It was working quite fine. The teachers were not, even though they were exposed to the virus, teachers were protecting themselves. Let me go further to say the Guyana Teachers Union took it upon itself to issue to teachers across this country. We couldn't do for every teacher, but we issued to every region in this country, and we allowed our reps to distribute to teachers. We distributed care packages to our teachers long before the Ministry of Education decided to do that. We distributed these packages to our teachers so as to ensure that our teachers are safe. In those care packages, we had masks, we had the gels, we had the liquid, we had the wipes. We gave those to our teachers within the regions in Guyana. And so our teachers were doing what they were supposed to do. Those who could, and you know what? What is important is that many of our teachers, especially for those within the secondary schools and those who were preparing their students for CAPE and the CSEC, they were working at timings that were convenient to their students. Because you know what? Students said to their teachers, "Miss, in my home, we only have 2 gadgets. And my little brother and my sisters, their timings are clashing with my timing. Miss, can you work with us at 9 o'clock at nights, or at 1 o'clock in the mornings, or at 5 o'clock in the mornings?" And teachers made themselves available to work with their students at those times. The grade 6 pupils made themselves available to work with their grade 6 pupils at 5 o'clock in the mornings, at 3:30 in the mornings. And those were workable times for both the parent and for the children, because when mommy has got to go out and mommy gone with her phone, then nobody else is having a phone at home, or we might only have 1 tablet or 1 computer at home. And so teachers were working, and that's why I keep saying all the time, and I'll continue to repeat this: we need to engage in fruitful and responsible and mature discussions how we can work around all of these options that were presented to us before, that the Ministry of Education did before when they printed those worksheets. And we need to look at what was the good coming out of that, and the bad areas, we need to strengthen those so that we would be able to meet our students, meet our pupils, even in these trying times when we have internet facilities not available, poor internet connection, we would be able to meet our students and our pupils.
And that's good, Miss Manager Secretary. I didn't realize that in Guyana you had a hybrid system. Basically, it wasn't all online. The teachers were going out and giving the students their handbook, and then they were collecting it and grading it and so on. That is incredible. Because Guyana is an open society. It's students, where your students, all your students live. So it's easy for teachers to go around, which is a really good thing. I want to switch gear, Mr. President, and there are reports that the teachers union seems to be anti-government. There are reports coming out of that. Is there any substance to that statement that you're anti-government, you're working against the government rather than with the government?
Absolute rubbish. I say that, use that strong term, that it's rubbish. In 2018, when it was because the government of that day did not deliver to teachers. And the Guyanese society seemed to believe that when you stand for your right and speak for your constituency, that you are taking a political position or a racial position. And we have got to, our teachers have issues. I can tell you, our teachers have been owed since 2019 finances owed to them. And are you saying that when the teachers take a position for their finance, that that's a political position? It's a bread and butter matter. Our teachers have been taken for granted in so many ways. In terms of support, not a dollar was given to any teacher to help with electricity or internet connectivity or devices. We have attended several meetings where teachers threw down 4 gadgets and said, look, these gadgets have become overloaded and there's no replacement, no support. So when the teachers union take a position, it is because our members are saying to us that we have had enough of the promises. We have been on the road protesting for 15 days, 15 days. And I want to show you the disparity. 15 days, the Guyana Teachers Union was out there protesting across the length and breadth of Guyana. A few sugar workers protested for 2 days at Albion. And that very weekend, they protested Friday. By Sunday, there was a deal with the GAU, and those men got what they protested for. And these are the things. Why is it you can engage and come out with an agreement on financial matters with a particular union, and you cannot come out on any grounds? You didn't even engage us as a union for 15 days. And these are the things that our members are saying, that the union has got to make its voice heard. Irrespective of how we are branded, we have to let the teachers' issues be raised. I'm saying this because all across, our teachers have received no financial increase. They have received no remuneration for anything owed to them, and they have been doing the work. And I dare say that in 2018, we were dubbed supporters of the PPP. In 2021, we are dubbed supporters of the APNO. And we are fine with that. We are fine with that. Whichever government sits in power and don't meet the demands of our teachers, the union is going to take a position. And we are sure that this is not the end of our labeling. But I want to rubbish that claim that we are anti-government. We support this government. Matter of fact, before school reopened in November 2020, the union suggested with the Ministry of Education, let us put our feet on the ground and let us go around to every school to determine its readiness in the midst of a COVID. You're saying that if we had a political position, we would agree to that. Before the 6th of September, the union and the ministry agreed that we are going to do the similar exercise to ensure that schools are ready to be reopened. That is not a political position. It's an issue to ensure that our members are safe. And I'm saying this because irrespective of what the groupings will say, the Guyana Teachers Union remains a constitutional body that represents members of different races, of different political persuasions, socio-economic status, and we will continue to do that. We will not allow a small nucleus of persons to say that we are political. We will continue to represent our constitution. But to your question, we are absolutely not political.
And I hear your passion in that, but I just want to make one comment on what you just said. When you're comparing the sugar workers with the teachers, I think that comparison, in my opinion, it's a bit skewed. It's like comparing apples and oranges. The sugar workers strike because, you know, after the rainfall, the weight of the cane went down dramatically. So they were cutting the same amount of cane and getting half the weight. So what they were asking for, at least compensate us for that weight loss. And I think that was the issue. So it's not issue with teachers. I think teachers have different issues, but I don't think comparing that to what the sugar workers were asking for is comparing apples and apples. It's two different analysis. But having said that, Mr. President, there is also a report that, and Madam Secretary, maybe you can come in here. There are reports that the union was given the responsibility to award duty-free concession and different things to teachers, and the ministry took it back because there's allegation that you use it as a political weapon for those who did not follow the line of the union. Now that the government, let me finish. Now that the government has taken it back, they can now use it as a political weapon to go against teachers who don't fall in line with them. In your opinion, should this responsibility be given to the union, to the ministry, or to the Teaching Service Commission? Which one might be the most applicable area for those things to take place?
Mark, let me just
to answer your question, I want to jump on this first because I find it very petty. It was an attempt by the Ministry of Education to see what they can take back to belittle and cause union busting. Now I want to say in our 2016-2018 agreement, that still remains enforced because there's a clause in that agreement that says all the benefits will be given to teachers until a new agreement is signed. And for the ministry to come out single-handedly and say, look, we are breaking away from this agreement is kind of petty and immature. And the Guyana Teachers Union would have said to the ministry, show us, give us the evidence where teachers have been discriminated against. Let us know where the duty-free concession, there's discrimination, or the scholarship. And to compound that issue, if we were discriminating against persons with scholarship, there is an involvement of the Ministry of Education in selecting the awardees for scholarships. So are we saying, as the ministry saying, that they were colluding with the union to disenfranchise persons? And that's
no, we understand, Mr. President.
I said to the ministry, I said to them, show us the evidence where we are discriminating against or we are using it as a political weapon. Show us the evidence. We have not heard a single word. But I'm saying again, it's a petty step and an immature decision taken by the Ministry of Education. And the Guyana Teachers Union remains the best group to dispense and continue dispensing, even administering duty-free concession and scholarship, because over the years, we have done it very professionally, equitably, and we have given it to those who deserve, based on the criteria that is laid out.
Before the GS comment, Madam Secretary, 1 second. Mr. President, will you be willing to publish the list of all the teachers who got those duty-free concession and the scholarships and so that was given after the union vetting? Will you be able to publish that information?
It is published. It is published every year, but we can publish going back to 2006. We can publish all the names of those who have collected duty-free. One thing I want to say about the duty-free definite to 4 categories of people: deputy head teachers, senior masters and mistresses, heads of departments. It means that on a given year, you will have over 400 applicants, new applicants every year. Share 100 duty-free. To share 100 duty-free concession for applications that are mounting. Right now, we have about 500 or 600 applications. In 2022, we have another 100 to distribute. So persons will always feel slighted because there's not enough on a given year. So they have to wait their turn. And so those complaints that the ministry are talking about are those persons who feel that they should be on the list. But we can only distribute what is given to us. And that's the reality.
And Madam GS, in answering the question, and Dr. Rose want to come on, the president is saying that you have an agreement with the government and the government has flaunted that part of the agreement. Are you going to court to challenge that decision of the government in your answer?
Well, let me say before I answer that part of the question, let me say to you that our agreement, this whole agreement was inked under the PPP in 2006, when they were government in 2006. That's where we had the formation of all of these things, where we started receiving duty-free concessions in 2007 and onward. I want to say to us that from 2007 to 2015, then we moved to 2020. You never heard any complaints, or let me just stick to 2015. 2006 to 2015, you never had complaints of the union wagging anything in front of the teachers or any sort of thing like that. And this is about the duty-free concession as well as the scholarship. In 2015, from 2015 to 2020, we have had the same process, with the only exception that within from 2015 to 2020, we would have had 2 other categories added to the 2 we had before. Same 100 duty-free concession. More than that, under the scholarship, the human resources manager at the Ministry of Education is the co-chair for that committee. The GTU's second vice president is the chair. The human resources manager at the Ministry of Education is co-chair. They all sit at this forum. They arranged for the meeting. They sit at that forum with representatives from each county. They sit at that forum. They pull those forms in. As a matter of fact, when those forms come, they sign. Those forms are being signed on to. The date receiving. They sit at that level of the committee. Each form is being signed onto by every single member of the committee. You know how many forms are there. For each county, there's a quota for each county. And so let me say in Demerara, you have rural Demerara, you have urban Demerara. And each part is allocated a number of teachers to receive the scholarship. And so in every aspect, the Ministry of Education is involved in it. When the shortlisting is done, just before you go, cut me, when the shortlisting is done, the ministry is there signing off on those. The ministry collects that listing. They are the ones who would write to the University of Guyana saying to them, these are the teachers who would have been awarded the scholarship under the GTU MOE agreement. And we're saying to you that the government will stand the cost for the tuition fees. So I don't know how GTU discriminating and GTU wagging anything with regards to the scholarship. And let me go to the duty-free concession. When the teachers send in their information to us, we prepare a list. 25 heads, 25 deputies, 25 HODs, 25 senior masters, mistresses. That list is sent to the Ministry of Education, where verification is done with a fine-tooth comb. The ministry does that.
No, Madam yes. No, we get you. Just sorry, I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off. I know you're saying that, but what I'm saying is 2 things.
The ministry does the signing off of all of these letters, and they send them off to where they're supposed to be approved, not the GTU.
So what I'm saying is, why, if the restriction is only 100, why doesn't the teachers union and the ministry sit down and the Ministry of Finance and say, you know what, we have 800 schools. I just call a number, I don't know. And each school has a head teacher, they have a deputy head, they have senior master or whatever it is. Why don't we extend that number so that more teachers can get it in a year, so no one really has to wait for a long period to get that benefit? Because eventually they will get it, just they have to wait. So why don't we get a larger number to get those scholarships or the duty-free concession?
We have done that.
That would be the perfect solution to the problem. But remember, we have an Inc. agreement that speaks only to 100, and when we negotiate, we ask for additional duty-free concessions, and those are denied generally. So it will be good going forward that every eligible teacher within the year would have submitted their application, that they get the duty-free, because it's a one-off. Once you get it one time, whichever category you fall in, once you get it one time, that's it. You're not going to get it in the lifetime of your career again. So we believe that it will make sense if that can happen. And I hope that somebody's listening and can say to us, that's the way we're going to go forward to alleviate the backlog that is presently there.
Yeah, and I really believe, I know Dr. Rose want to come on and we're running the program time. I think, as you said, if one time you're getting it, whether you're a head teacher, you're a deputy, you're a senior master, whatever, I know there's a cost to waive the duty, but that benefit is much greater when your teachers are happy and they can, you know, you can't pay for those things.
Stay very quickly. Many of our teachers, when we actually got that part of the agreement agreed to, that condition agreed to, many of our head teachers, they smiled with joy, because you know what? They're saying, I taught this boy Mark Lyte, and I've been teaching for 25 years, and imagine Mark Lyte just finished the cadet program at the Guyana course, and look, Mark, I drive in a car and I can't even ride a bicycle. Look, I'm riding a
I know. I see the question, Madam Yes.
Conditions that would boost the morale of teachers, and we're asking that if this can be done for the categories across the sector, maybe we can look at come to some agreement where you say maybe after 20 years or after 25 years or 15 years, as being in that position as a teacher, those years, you're eligible for a week off duty-free.
Well, we can't do negotiation here. Dr. Rose and I cannot negotiate for the ministry. You got to go there. But
I know.
Having said that, what about those bad teachers? How do you get them out of the system?
Well, you know, that is why we have a teaching service commission. And as long as the regional education officers can prove beyond the point of a doubt that these teachers are no longer fit for the system, then the teaching service commission would make that decision.
Wouldn't the union fight for the teacher? Say, hey, no, you cannot dismiss the teacher.
Well, and this is what I'm saying. As long as the regional education departments can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that this teacher doesn't fit into this system, can't serve the system, then it's up to the Teaching Service Commission, the disciplinary committee of the Teaching Service Commission. So use the facts that would have been presented by both entities, the GTU and the Ministry of Education, and come up with their findings. We have seen many of our teachers being dismissed for various reasons. And at the end of it, even though we fought for them, we had to agree that, yes, this teacher will not serve the purpose. So let him go, let her go. Because we are a professional organization, and when our members commit offenses that runs into conflict with the policies of the Ministry of Education, tell them straight.
Madam GS and Mr. President, we will definitely get you again on this program because there's so much more to discuss and time is running out. Dr. Rose, I'm sure Dr. Rose has so many questions for you as well. Dr. Rose, over to you.
No, we come to the end of the program. Mr. Lyte, do you have any closing remarks?
I would just like to, I came in a bit late, but I would just like to say that the Guyana Teachers Union is a professional body, and we represent our members cutting across ethnic groups, political persuasion, social classes. I also recognize that the union continues to call for our outstanding financial matters to be resolved. We continue to call on other welfare matters relating to the union being treated as a key stakeholder in the education sector, and we want the Ministry of Education to engage us so that we can join with them and build a strong foundation for education in Guyana. We are committed to serving Guyana, and we know our teachers across different regions have that similar commitment. I want to say on this call that should the ministry want to engage us, the government want to engage us in fruitful, meaningful discussions, we are ready. We are available, and we are saying to them, let's come to the table and trash out our issue. All right. So with that, I would just like to thank you for having me on the program, and I trust that we'll be able to come again to discuss some of these matters and others again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lyte. And Madam Secretary, in closing, when was the last audited statement we had from the Guyana Teachers Union? In your closing remark.
In my closing remarks, let me say to you, the Guyana Teachers Union have always, as a professional organization, set out to ensure that its books are in order. The last audited statement we had was about 5 years or 6 years ago. It's a work in progress, and so our auditors, they are doing what they're supposed to be doing right now. We would have had to present that when the coalition government was in place. We would have had to ensure that that was in place there, and so the work continued. But I want to say to us and all those who are listening to us, everyone who remembers his own education remembers teachers, not the method, not the techniques, but they remember the teacher they remember that the teacher is the heart of the education system. And in saying that, I want to say that we must respect teachers. We must respect teachers because what teachers can do, nobody else can do. And I'm sure you have children, and you know your children would come home to say to you, teacher said so. Yes, teacher said so. Teacher said this, and the child doesn't believe from what the teacher is saying. He or she feels that the teacher is right. And so I'm saying all of this to say that our teachers should be given the kind of respect that they ought to be given. The GTU, on the other hand, will continue to represent its teachers, its members, regardless of whether you're a member or not. We will continue to represent you, regardless of which political party forms government in the country. We will continue to represent our teachers, because in representing our members, we don't see political parties. We see bread and butter issues that we need to fulfill as part of our mandate for our members. And I will remind all of our members that COVID is real and that we should adhere to the guidelines that we set out. Wash your hands thoroughly, use your hand sanitizers, wear your mask correctly, and stay away from large grouping. With that, I want to thank you for having me here on this program. And I guess we're going to have to use an entire day if we want to get through with all we want to talk about with regards to teachers and the GTU and its function. But again, thank you for having me on this program, and I look for your calls anytime.
Without doubt. I think the President Lyte, thank you so much for being with us, and to you, Madam Secretary. It was a great pleasure for us. And I like your statement that we must respect our teachers. And in my humble opinion, those were the days of old. I don't know if it's still happening now. I know in my school days, teachers were like gods, you know, you really respect them. But sometimes in what's happening now, the teachers disrespect themselves as well. And then they go and drink with the students, and they go and do different, you know, and it's not the same situation when we were growing up in those days. So, Madam General Secretary, we want to thank you, Mr. President, and of course, Dr. Rose. We want to thank our audience for being with us, to Nohar Singh for making us available, and of course, to Devin Bisu. Dr. Rose, anything in your final word?
No, I just want to thank Mr. Mark Lyte, President of the GTU, and Ms. McDonald again, General Secretary of GTU, for being on the program tonight. And next week we'll have Dr. Richard Van Best Charles, member of the PNC party, executive member of the PNC party, and a leadership contestant in the next Congress.
Okay, so there you have it. So again, Madam General Secretary, Mr. President, thank you so much for being with us today. To all our
Thank you
audience,
for having us. Have a good night and be safe, guys.
and God bless our teachers and our students in Guyana.